That crippled old drunk is your protection now. Vernon Caldwell's mocking laughter died when the foreman's coat fell open, revealing a silver revolver with ghost engravings. Luther's face went white. Jesus Christ, Vernon, that's Greg Hatchett, the silver ghost. He killed 11 men in Tombstone. He's supposed to be dead.
Hello. If you believe every underdog deserves to be seen and lifted up, your support means more than you know. Hitting 1,000 subscribers isn't just a number for us, it's what allows these real, hopeful stories to reach people who might desperately need them to stay motivated. Your one click could be the reason someone keeps going. Please help us reach more hearts by subscribing now.
The Arizona sun hung merciless over Prescott Cemetery as Theresa Roberts stood beside her husband's fresh grave, the black dress heavy in the September heat. Daniel had been found 3 days ago near Granite Creek, shot 3 times in the back. Everyone knew who'd done it. Nobody would say it out loud. The old foreman stood beside her, tall but stooped, his hands trembling from old wounds. Greg Hatchett had worked their ranch for 15 years, never causing trouble, never talking much about his past. Just a broken-down hired hand who could barely sit a horse anymore. The preacher was finishing the benediction when hoofbeats shattered the silence. 3 riders approached, sitting their horses at the cemetery gate with casual arrogance. Vernon Caldwell in the center, his brothers Luther and Wade flanking him. Half the mourners scattered immediately. Women grabbed children. Men ducked behind headstones. Vernon's laughter cut through the cemetery like a whip crack. Well, now look at this. The widow Roberts, all dressed up and nowhere to go. He spat tobacco juice onto the sacred ground. That crippled drunk's your bodyguard now, widow. That's what you're counting on. Wade rode closer, grinning. Old man can barely stand straight. Hands shake like leaves. What's he gonna do? Bore us to death with stories. Greg lifted his head slowly, his eyes pale blue and cold as winter sky. Ma'am, he said quietly to Theresa. Step behind me, please. Vernon leaned forward in his saddle. You hear that, boys? The geezer's gonna protect her. He pointed at Greg. Old man, you got 10 seconds to climb back on whatever nag brought you here and ride out. This is Caldwell business. Wade dismounted, striding forward. Let me help him understand. He shoved Greg's shoulder hard. The old foreman stumbled. His duster fell open. Time seemed to stop. Hanging at Greg's hip was a revolver unlike any in the territory. Nickel-plated Colt .45, gleaming like captured moonlight. Pearl grips. And engraved on the barrel, the initials GH surrounded by an etched ghost symbol. Luther Caldwell's face drained white as bone. Jesus Christ, Vernon. His voice came out strangled. Look at that gun. Vernon squinted. I don't care if he's carrying Lincoln's own. That's Greg Hatchett. Luther's horse backed up instinctively, sensing his rider's fear. God almighty, Vernon, that's the silver ghost. He killed 11 men in Tombstone. He's supposed to be dead. The cemetery went silent except for wind through the headstones. Greg's right hand moved, not fast by young standards, but with decades of precision. The silver Colt cleared leather, cocked, aimed, all one fluid motion that defied his trembling hands. The barrel pointed steady at Vernon's chest. I'm the man whose friend you murdered, Greg said softly, and I'm giving you one chance to ride out and never come back, or I'll kill all 3 of you where you stand. The standoff stretched. 5 seconds. 10. Wade's hand drifted toward his pistol, but Luther grabbed his arm. Don't be a fool. That's Greg Hatchett. Vernon's face flushed red, but sweat ran down his temples. This ain't over, old man. You just signed both your death warrants. He jerked his reins back. The 3 Caldwell brothers rode out, Vernon last, shouting threats that blew away on the wind. The townspeople emerged slowly, whispering. The silver ghost. I thought he was dead. 11 men in Tombstone, all in one night. Theresa stared at the stranger who'd worked her ranch for 15 years. Greg holstered the silver Colt and turned to her, his weathered face creased with old pain. Ma'am, we should talk. Privately. An hour later, they sat in her small kitchen. The silver Colt lay on the table between them. Greg had removed his coat, revealing a lean, scarred frame. His hands were marked with old violence. A missing finger, burn scars, blade cuts. Daniel never told me about you, Theresa said. Not the truth anyway. Greg stared into his coffee. 1867. I was a U.S. Marshal in Tombstone. Discovered the sheriff and 10 deputies were running a protection racket, killing homesteaders who wouldn't pay. I gave them a chance to surrender. He paused. They drew instead. I killed all 11 in the street. The Tombstone massacre, newspapers called it. After that, I was hunted. Badge and outlaw alike wanted me dead. I disappeared, became a ghost. His jaw worked. 1868, Apache Wars. I was dying from arrow wounds when a young cavalry scout found me. Daniel Roberts. He saved my life, gave me refuge, never asked questions. Theresa's breath caught. Daniel knew. He knew everything. When he started this ranch, he asked me to come work for him. Said I'd paid enough. Said a man deserved peace. Greg's hands tightened on the cup. I promised him if anything happened, I'd protect you. That's a promise I keep. They'll come back, Theresa said. I know. And when they do, we'll be ready. That afternoon, 2 riders appeared. Greg spotted them first, hand dropping to his gun. But Theresa, looking through Daniel's spyglass, shook her head. One's a woman. The other's black. The riders stopped 50 yards out. Mrs. Roberts, the woman called. My name's Catherine Tanner. Can we talk? They rode in slowly. Catherine had intelligent eyes and calloused hands. The man with her was Josiah Burke, a homesteader from the valley. Catherine looked at the ranch with an appraising eye. Daniel was a good man. I'm sorry for your loss. Why are you here? Theresa asked. Because the Caldwells are bastards, and I'm tired of watching them destroy everything decent. Catherine's voice was flat. They killed my son 2 years ago. Shot him for refusing to sell his claim. The law did nothing. Josiah spoke quietly. They burned my barn last month. Killed my livestock. Told me if I don't sell by month's end, they'll kill my family. Greg studied them. What do you want? To fight back, Catherine said. Together. Alone, we're victims. Together, maybe we survive. That night, a 3rd ally arrived. Samuel Drayton, former Confederate sharpshooter, lean and weathered. Heard the silver ghost was back, he said to Greg. Figured you might need a good rifleman. They gathered around the kitchen table. Greg spread a hand-drawn map. Caldwell ranches, supply routes, guard positions. They control 40,000 acres. 60 armed men. They won't attack head-on. They'll isolate us first, cut supplies, burn us out one by one. So we don't wait, Catherine said. Greg nodded. We hit them first. Chino Valley. Their cattle operation. Tomorrow night. The raid was devastating. Greg's team poisoned the water supply at midnight, stampeded 500 head through fences. $20,000 in losses. They were gone before dawn. But retaliation came swift. The next morning, Josiah's barn was ashes. His fence had a message written in blood. The ghost dies screaming. And word arrived. Vernon Caldwell had hired the Garrett gang. 6 killers from Texas. Professional. Expensive. Deadly. Greg cleaned his silver Colt that evening, eyes cold. They want the ghost? Let's give them a ghost. If this story has you gripping your seat, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started, and what comes next will blow your mind. 3 days later, intelligence arrived. Catherine's bartender overheard Caldwell men talking. They were moving 40 prize breeding horses through Skull Valley, isolated terrain, perfect for ambush. Greg planned it carefully. He and Sam would take high ground with rifles. Theresa and Catherine would scatter the horses below, cripple the Caldwells' transportation and income in one strike. They rode out before dawn, reaching Skull Valley as sun broke the horizon. The horses were there, guarded by 7 men. Greg's signal, a canyon wren whistle, and the ambush exploded. Sam's rifle cracked first. 2 guards dropped instantly. Catherine and Theresa charged in, firing pistols, scattering horses in all directions. Chaos erupted. Animals screaming, men shouting, gunfire echoing off canyon walls. Then Wade Caldwell appeared with 5 more men. He'd been there all along, waiting. It's a trap, Greg shouted, but too late. Wade's men opened fire from concealed positions. Sam took a bullet in the shoulder, spinning backward. Catherine's horse went down hard. Greg descended from his position, silver Colt flashing in morning light. He dropped 2 men with precision shots. But Wade charged straight at him, screaming rage, pistol drawn. They faced each other, 30 feet apart. Wade was young, fast, confident. Greg was old, wounded, supposedly broken. Wade drew first, but Greg's hand moved with the speed that made him legend. The silver Colt roared once. Wade Caldwell fell backward, hole in his chest, dead before he hit ground. The remaining Caldwell men fled. Greg's team escaped, but barely. Sam was bleeding badly, needed immediate medical attention. They rode hard for the Roberts ranch. They arrived to find smoke on the horizon. Catherine's saloon burned to the ground. 2 of her employees dead, tied to chairs, tortured first. Catherine fell to her knees, staring at the ashes. Theresa knelt beside her, both women broken but defiant. "They think this breaks us," Catherine whispered. "They're wrong." But that night, tending Sam's wounds, Theresa asked the question that haunted them all. How many more have to die? Greg's answer was cold. However many it takes. News arrived the next morning. A ranch hand, terrified and sympathetic, rode in with a warning. Vernon Caldwell was gathering everyone. Luther, 15 ranch hands, the entire Garrett gang. They were coming for the Roberts ranch to end this war permanently. Greg studied his map of the territory, finger tracing a location. Granite Creek. Narrow canyon. High walls, one way in and out. Perfect killing box. How do we lure them? Sam asked, his wounded shoulder bandaged tight. Greg looked at Theresa. With bait. They want you almost as much as the ranch. If they think you're running alone, vulnerable, carrying evidence, they'll come with everything. Theresa's stomach tightened. You want me alone in that canyon? Not alone. We'll be hidden on the rim. But they need to think you're alone, or they'll smell the trap. Greg's eyes were apologetic but determined. It's dangerous. Maybe too dangerous. Then I'll die fighting, Theresa said flatly. Better than waiting for them to burn us out. They spent the day preparing. Greg positioned forces carefully, Josiah and Sam on the north rim despite Sam's injury, Catherine and 2 loyal ranch hands on the south. Greg himself would take the far end, the killing position. Catherine spread false intelligence through Prescott's town drunk, a paid informant. Word that Theresa had evidence, land deeds, proof of Caldwell crimes. That she was fleeing to Flagstaff tomorrow at dawn. Alone. Desperate. That night, nobody slept. Theresa wrote a letter to her sister, sealed it, left it on the kitchen table. Catherine prayed for the first time since her son's death. Sam and Josiah shared whiskey, talking about the men they were before this war changed them. Greg cleaned his silver Colt one final time, hands steady now with purpose. Tomorrow, some of us might die, he said quietly. But we die free. Not on our knees. Not begging. Free. Dawn broke cold and red. Theresa mounted her horse alone, saddlebags packed with fake documents. She rode toward Granite Creek, toward whatever waited. Behind her, Greg whispered, God forgive us for what we're about to do. Theresa rode hard, but not too hard, playing the terrified widow fleeing for her life. Behind her, dust rose on the horizon. Riders. Many. Her heart hammered against her ribs. They closed the distance fast, whooping and shouting like hunters chasing prey. She counted at least 20 men. Vernon and Luther Caldwell leading them. The Garrett gang riding alongside. All committed. All entering the trap. She reached Granite Creek's entrance and plunged into the narrow canyon. Walls rose on either side, red stone towering above. The path narrowed. Behind her, the shouts grew louder, closer. Confident. Bloodthirsty. A gunshot cracked. The bullet whined past her head. They were toying with her, trying to drop her horse. Another shot. Closer. She urged her mount faster, deeper into the canyon. Then she saw it. 3 flashes of reflected sunlight from the north rim. Greg's signal. The trap was ready. She kicked hard toward the far end, towards safety. Behind her, hell opened up. Greg gave the order. Rifles exploded from both canyon rims. Concentrated fire was devastating. For Caldwell, riders went down instantly. Horses screamed. Men fell. Chaos erupted in the narrow confines. The Garrett gang tried to retreat, but there was nowhere to go. They were trapped, caught in murderous crossfire with no cover, no escape. Frank Garrett, the gang leader, tried to charge forward. Straight into Greg's position. The silver Colt flashed 6 times. Frank and 4 of his men dropped like puppets with cut strings. The legend was real. But 2 Garrett gang members broke through, charging toward Theresa. Greg's gun clicked empty. He was hit, twice, bleeding, unable to reload fast enough. Theresa dismounted, grabbed Daniel's Winchester, and fired. First shot missed. Second shot caught one gunman in the chest. Third shot killed the second as he raised his pistol at her. She stood over their bodies, rifle smoking, no longer a widow. A killer. The fight lasted 7 minutes. When smoke cleared, 19 men lay dead. The creek ran red with blood. Greg collapsed, his silver Colt falling into the crimson water. "Finish it," he gasped. "Don't let them run. End this." Vernon and Luther escaped. But if you think this story ends here, you're wrong. Subscribe now, because what Theresa does next will leave you speechless. 2 days later, Greg lay in bed at the Roberts ranch, alive but broken. 2 bullets had shattered bone and nerve in his right arm. The doctor's verdict was final. He'd never draw his silver Colt again. The ghost was truly dead now. But Sam Drayton brought something more valuable than vengeance. During the chaos at Granite Creek, he'd searched the bodies. Found the Caldwell accountant among the dead, carrying a leather-bound ledger in his saddlebag. The ledger contained 15 years of crimes. Names, dates, payments. Every murder, every land theft, every bribe, all documented in the Caldwell's own handwriting. Catherine revealed her secret. "I telegraphed federal marshals 3 weeks ago. They're in Prescott now, investigating the Granite Creek incident." Her smile was grim. "I figured we'd need law on our side when this ended." They rode into Prescott at noon. Theresa, Sam, Josiah, Catherine, and 10 armed ranch hands. The whole town gathered in the courthouse square, sensing something momentous. Vernon and Luther Caldwell emerged from their fortified ranch house with 30 remaining men. They expected intimidation, expected to use money and lawyers to paint themselves as victims of widow's rage. Instead, Theresa stood on the courthouse steps and read from the ledger. Her voice carried across the square, clear and damning. "Daniel Roberts, shot in the back by Wade Caldwell. April 15th, 1883. Payment, $500. She turned pages. Thomas Burke. Made to look like suicide. January 12th, 1882. Payment, $300. She continued. 17 names. 17 families destroyed. She showed the pages to the federal marshals standing beside her, to the territorial representatives, to the gathered crowd of townspeople who'd lived in fear for decades. Vernon's hand moved toward his gun. 30 seconds of frozen violence hung in the air. Then Sam's rifle cocked. 20 more rifles followed from Theresa's allies scattered through the crowd. And shockingly, guns cocked among the Caldwell's own men. Ranch hands tired of being part of murder, finally seeing a way out. Vernon's face twisted with the realization of total defeat. The federal marshals stepped forward with arrest warrants. Vernon and Luther faced the hangman's noose for multiple murders. But Theresa raised her hand. "Wait." She looked at the Caldwell brothers, seeing not monsters, but broken men who'd lost everything. "You have a choice. Face trial and hang. Or sign every deed, every property, every claim over to the territory. Admit your crimes in writing. And leave Arizona forever. You have 1 hour." Vernon's mouth opened to argue, but Luther grabbed his arm. They'd lost. Everyone knew it. Their empire built on fear and secrecy had crumbled. By sundown, they'd signed everything away. The massive Caldwell holdings, seized for redistribution to families they'd terrorized. Vernon and Luther Caldwell rode out of Prescott heading east, toward California or Mexico or oblivion. Broken men with nothing but horses and shame. The town celebrated. But 3 weeks later, Theresa sat on her porch beside Greg, both staring at the Verde River in heavy silence. Greg's right arm hung useless in a sling. The silver Colt rested in a display case inside, a museum piece now. "I told myself this was different," he said quietly. "That protecting you justified it. But I wasn't different. I was just better at killing than the men we killed. That's all." Theresa showed him her hands. Steady, but no longer innocent. "We both became killers, Greg. Both crossed lines we can't uncross. But we killed for something bigger than revenge. For Daniel. For Josiah. For every family the Caldwells destroyed. When does necessary justice become just revenge?" Greg asked. "When do protectors become executioners?" Theresa had no answer. Nobody did. That moral ambiguity hung between them like smoke. Josiah arrived with news. His homestead rebuilt, community helping. Catherine's insurance paid, reopening as a hotel. Sam accepted a deputy marshal position. Healing was happening, but the scars remained. "We paid the price," Theresa said finally. "Now we live with it. And we build something worth the cost." Greg nodded slowly. "Then let's build." Spring 1885. Theresa Roberts stood on her porch watching sunrise over the Verde Valley, feeling something close to peace. The seized Caldwell properties had been redistributed to 24 new families. Josiah's homestead thrived. He was training other black homesteaders now, building a community of his own. Catherine's hotel brought legitimate business to Prescott. Respectability replacing the old violence. Sam Drayton managed the Roberts Ranch with quiet efficiency, a good man doing honest work. Theresa had become something unexpected, a territorial advocate for small ranchers. She'd founded the Verde Valley Cattlemen's Association with 42 members and strict bylaws against land grabbing. Schools were built. Churches established. 3 new towns sprouted along the Verde River. The territorial marshal consulted with Greg regularly, using the legend's knowledge to track outlaws, prevent violence instead of causing it. Greg spent his days teaching young ranch hands, the silver Colt visible through his cabin window, a reminder of what he'd been and what he'd chosen to stop being. Theresa never remarried. Some gossiped, but she had different work now. Building, leading, shaping the future Daniel had dreamed of. That evening, she visited Daniel's grave on the 2nd anniversary of his death. She didn't bring flowers anymore. She brought reports. "We did it, love," she whispered, touching the headstone. "Everything you wanted. The association thrives. Schools are full. Water rights distributed fairly. Your dream lives." She paused. "I became someone you might not recognize to make it happen. I killed men, threatened worse. But your death wasn't meaningless." She stood, no longer a grieving widow but a builder, a leader, a survivor who'd paid the full price and kept moving forward. The sun set over Peaceful Valley, cattle lowing in the distance, children's laughter from town, civilization advancing, one hard-won day at a time. The frontier had demanded blood. They'd paid it. And from that blood, something good had grown. That had to be enough. That had to matter. Thank you for riding with us through this tale of courage, loss, and redemption on the frontier. If this story of a widow and a legend fighting for justice moved you, subscribe to Wild Western Tales for more powerful Western narratives every day.
If you enjoyed this story, we appreciate you a whole lot and look forward to connecting with you as we build a community on this channel. Every day, we will put out more stories, so we need your support. Help us by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel if you haven't already. You won't miss any new exciting videos. Check out the next video. You'll love it.